Hi, this is Madison Glauner, and today I'm going to be talking with Myrna Davis, author of Soupy Sales, A Personal Remembrance and Tribute. Hi, Myrna. I'm doing well, thank you. So, can you start by telling us a little bit about just Soupy Sales in general and his first TV show?
Well, his first TV show was before I knew him. So, he started way back. He started in the Navy, actually, on the radio on the ships, entertaining the sailors. And then he just developed his style. Then he started a kids show. And I think he was in Detroit and got very popular there. And then he came to L.A. So I didn't meet him until 1962.
Okay. So the television show that you first met him, or that he was working on when you first met him, was that one geared toward children?
You know, it's a funny thing. His show was, on the surface, looked like it was for children, but he often had nuances that reached the older kids. The college kids loved him. Adults loved him. He really did the whole spectrum. And it wasn't just a kids show. It just appeared to be a kids show.
You were first introduced, well, not even to him personally, but introduced to his television show. How?
I went to visit a friend, a very dear old friend, and we were standing in her apartment, and she said to me, "Hey, have you seen Soupy Sales Show yet?" I said, "No, I don't even know who he was," but I remembered seeing the name. I thought it was a show about selling soup, showing how I thought. And I said, "No, I haven't." And then I started to watch, and I got hooked. And then there was a local newspaper that had an ad to join the fan club, which I did. I got all my paraphernalia from the fan club, and on there was a return address, and three of the people from the fan club signed a little card, and I looked up one of their names and matched it to the address. I'm a little bit of a detective. And I called them up and said, "Hey, I'm a member, and I'd love to meet you." And they said, "Great," and I came over. I started to work on the club and became very good friends till this day with the lady who started it, my friend Ellen. Yeah.
That is so neat. So it was Ellen, Richard, and Ed, correct?
Yes, the three of them started it. And Richard actually ended up, he was very funny, and Richard ended up working on the Laugh-In show in 1969. I don't know if anyone remembers that show. It was very big, Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. And he was a writer, and he also appeared on the show. And he was very funny. So, yes, he and Ellen and Ed. Ed had to finally leave because I think his father passed away or something. And so, but I kept working with them on the club. So it just went from there. And then I met Soupy, and the rest just evolved.
I know you became really close friends with Ellen. Were Richard and Ed first both very welcoming, or?
Oh, yeah, everybody was welcoming. I mean, they were wonderful. That's what was so nice about it. We just all got along, and we all had this love of Soupy show, and we all loved comedy. And Ellen's mother, in fact, was the sister of one of the Little Rascals from the 1930s. Which was another, and to this day, I've never met him. That was Ellen's uncle. I have never met him. He's still alive, but I never had the chance. Isn't that funny?
That is, do you think you will?
I have no idea. He's probably in his 80s by now. But, there was never an occasion but I did meet his mother, Ellen's grandmother. She was at the house all the time. And I loved Ellen's mother, so we all just had a great time. And Soupy was welcoming. I have to say, from the very beginning, he was very welcoming to us and always made the way clear, because he had also run a fan club for a band leader named Jerry Wald. And I think from that, he understood what we were trying to do and how we felt as fans, and therefore he was able to relate. And he really was sweet to us. He really was.
That is actually something I kind of wanted to ask you about. Did he ever delve into anything about his time running a fan club?
He didn't. He just told us that he had run one, but he didn't go into it in detail. He was always interested in music, comedy and music, although he got his degree from Marshall College in journalism. But he went on, he was writing and things, but still, comedy, I think, comedy and music. In fact, his two sons went into the music field. That's
I didn't
today, yes?
I didn't know that.
Yes.
So did he, I know he at one point told you you were a funny girl.
I will never, ever forget that. I happen to be a big fan of comedy. I love it. And one day we were in his office, and he was sitting at the desk, and there was a whole thing of keys. There must have been 50 keys on this keychain. And he picks it up and holds it to his nose and goes, shoo, like this, and all the keys are dripping. And I immediately turned to him and said, oh, he says, I said, at least you sneeze on key, which cracked him up. And he said, you know, Myrna, and I'll never forget these words, he said, there are very few funny women out there. He says, you should write comedy. That's what he said to me. I never got the chance.
That's pretty incredible. You never, I mean, did you ever try to pursue it or consider it seriously?
No, the crazy thing was, because when I met him, I was going to college, and I was busy getting a degree, and then after I graduated, I got married and started a life, and never went in that direction.
From my understanding of everything you wrote in the book, that was a lot of work some of the times with the fan club, especially publishing the newspaper.
Yeah, well, we did a newsletter. Ellen basically did it. And we also put together a fan club annual for 1962, which you have to remember, in those days, things weren't like they are today. You have computers today and all kinds of copiers. We had we ordered hundreds of pictures to put in our annual. We had to cut them out to fit the little parts in the pages and paste each one by hand in the book. Don't ask, because there weren't copiers then. And so everything was really done in the old-fashioned way, and it was a lot of work. And we went to most appearances. So, yeah, we put in a lot of time. Yeah.
What kept you so committed to continue doing it when you had your schooling and your part-time job while you were continuing your education?
Mainly because once I'm committed to something, I'm committed. And that's why I try not to take on too much. But I was going to school. I was working 20 hours a week to put myself through school, and 40 hours a week in the summer. But I found time to do this. I mean, it was just one of those things. I think it was just because he was so nice, it made it even easier to work for him. And he treated us so well. Yeah.
And Ellen became your best friend, so it was a good time with her.
And we're still friends. You know, we still keep together and talk to each other and, share our lives together. So that was another serendipity that I liked. Yeah, that was nice.
That's really special.
In fact, Richard and I are friends on Facebook. So, so we keep in touch as well.
But you haven't kept in touch with Ed? You don't know where he is now?
I have no idea where Ed is at this point.
Has Ellen read your book?
Ellen has read my book and loved it. In fact, I had called her before I wrote it. I said, Ellen, I always wanted to write this book when Soupy was alive and never got to it. But I think it's because I realized there was no closure to the end of the book. It was open-ended. Somehow when he died, I said, I think now is the time, because now there's an end to the book. And I called her and asked her what she thought. And she said, I think that would be a good idea. So there it was until she gave me her blessings. And Richard also has a copy of the book, because Richard's pictures in the book. So
with Trudy, his second wife, I know you became very friendly with her.
Yes.
What?
Not very friendly, but she's called me and we've talked. Yeah, and I send her birthday cards every year. Yeah.
What was the relationship with his first wife, Barbara?
Well, we didn't know Barbara real well. I think she kind of stepped to the background and said, well, that's Soupy and his world with his fan club. I mean, we knew her. She came by when he did the recording session for his record, and she came by with the two boys. And we would say hello. She was friendly to us, but we just never had a lot of interaction.
Okay, that was just something I was curious about, because I was just wondering if she was friendly.
She was friendly, all right, but the thing is that we worked with Soupy on a work relationship, and usually it was at the studio. She wasn't there. She was home. Mm-hmm. So we didn't see her a lot, and we never went into his house. That was a smart thing on his part. It separated his personal life from the fan club. But we used to see him at the front door, much like on his TV show. We'd talk to him at the front door or in the backyard, but we never asked to go in. He never invited us in, and I think that was smart.
As you were going to school in Los Angeles, was your family still living close near you?
I was living with my family.
Oh, wonderful.
I only spent one semester at the dormitory.
Okay.
And I write about that in my book as well, and how I had to go on a very stormy night to Ellen's house to finish the annual. I will never forget that. That was how I got there, I'll never know. But, yeah, I stayed at the dormitory just one semester. But the other time I lived with my family and commuted to college. It was only 6 miles away.
What did they think of all your involvement with the fan club, and did they enjoy Soupy's show as well?
No, they didn't watch it. My sister wasn't interested. They were happy to let me just have my life and enjoy myself, and I just did my thing. You know, I was just very different.
When you first started being involved with the fan club, did you ever think you would be writing a book about Soupy's life? Or about your memory of him?
Actually, no, it never occurred to me. But Ellen used to give me the writing assignments. I had to write about the record session when Soupy did his Up in the Air album. She gave me the assignment. I always liked writing and communicating. But I'd always had in the back of my mind, gee, it would be fun to write about all our experiences. Didn't do it until he was gone. And that's when I got determined to do it. But what helped me, I started keeping a journal in 1960, and this is before I met him. But I wrote down everything, and that journal is what I went to when I started to put this together, because I wanted everything to be chronological as to when it happened, because, you know, the human brain is not always, I don't want to say fallible. It's not infallible. Therefore, the brain doesn't always remember things in the right order, but my book does. So I had this journal that I've kept, books and books, and I referred to that for all of the information. I had a scrapbook, of course, with pictures, and when I published the book, I paid to put some extra pictures in, because they only give you like 10. Oh. And I wanted like something like 13 or so. And I said, no, these pictures have to be in there. So I had a lot of remembrances, and I designed the back cover. Which didn't say I designed it. I wrote the back cover, and I put the pictures in and said, I want these things on the back, and then they designed it, the publishers. So, yeah, that was, without that book, I don't think I could have done it as well.
Did Ellen have a journal as well, or is that just something you've always loved to do?
No, it's just something I like to do. You can call me Anne Frank, too. I just liked writing down. I still do to this day. I keep a journal of everything I've done. Some days are boring, and some days there's a lot of interesting stuff, like when we take vacations or something. So, yeah, I like to have a journal. I mean, I don't know what will happen to it when I'm gone, but there it is. I've written down my life since 1960.
So you've always loved to write. Do you think that you would like to have another book published or work on something else?
If I ever had another book published, and I've thought about it, I would write about different articles of things about life that I've enjoyed. Like I once wrote an article about trees. I thought they were very interesting in how they relate to life, and why trees lose their leaves in autumn. And the fact that the leaves fall and they re-nourish the ground, and then there's a new generation of leaves nourished by the old generation, very much like people who leave their legacy behind. And it was an interesting article on the trees. And I wrote one about how I entered the city of Venice, Italy, at 2 a.m. in a boat, because the plane came in extremely late and all the regular transportation was finished. So the hotel had to send a boat for us. And we came in at 2 a.m. and the eeriness of Venice, Italy, a very bustling city, and everything was quiet. All you heard was the lapping of the boats, the water on the boats. It was an unusual way to enter. So I had to write an article on that. So I've written a lot of articles.
So can you tell us about this necklace you're wearing today?
I thought it was apropos that I wear it today. This is the necklace that Soupy gave us in December of 1962 as a Christmas present for all our hard work. It is a gold necklace of a heart. I don't know if you can see it, but it has my name on one side and Soupy's signature on the other. So you can say I've got his signature in gold, which is, that wasn't the whole point. It's not the value, it's sentiment. and something I cherish. And Ellen still has hers. So I had to wear it today.
Yeah, it's really special. I was really hoping you would bring it as well. When you reconnected with Soupy later on, and you were married,
Yes.
what did your husband think about all the stories of your fan club? And I know he went to see shows with you.
Well, he found it interesting. In fact, in the book I talk about the time that Soupy's manager, Adelaide Nimitz, she's passed away, but she invited us to meet with Soupy at Jerry's Deli in Studio City. And we sat there, and my husband, Brian, was very happy to go with us, and we all got along great. And Soupy was especially nice. He would sit there, and, most celebrities want to talk about themselves. And he sat there, and he listened to Brian's stories about how he grew up in England and didn't see any electric lights in the city until he was 5 because of the Blitz during World War II and all the bombs and the blackouts. And he never saw the city lit up until he was 5 when the war was over. And Soupy actually sat there and listened rather than talking about himself. I just thought that was unusual. He's very sweet that way. And he signed a bunch of photographs of him to different people I knew, and they were so thrilled to get it. He was just a nice guy. He always cared about the fans. That was one thing.
Was your husband a fan before?
Yeah, he liked the show. He did. We used to watch it when they did the reruns from New York, and they had it syndicated in L.A. We used to watch it all the time, and we'd both laugh. Yeah.
Okay, so something I wanted to ask you to elaborate on a little bit is just how it was when you were first getting to know Soupy's show and watching it, and that you had that special time of having to be there right when it was going to air, because we don't really get to experience that as much nowadays.
We're so spoiled today. You can put your DVR, put everything on hold, and you can say, I could put my life on hold, I'll come right back to that show. We couldn't do that. Even Frank Sinatra, because he was a big Soupy fan. And Frank Sinatra made everybody stop whatever they were doing, even if it was a recording session. I got to watch Soupy now. I mean, I was impressed by that. That was amazing. Because you didn't have VCRs, you didn't have DVRs, you didn't have a way to tape it. And unfortunately, all those kinescopes that Soupy took in 1962, most of them are unusable. I mean, he owned them, but very few of them are out there. And it's a shame because those were fantastic shows. It was the biggest thing on TV.
Yeah, I was trying to find a few videos. It was a little difficult. I found some, but not very many.
Very hard to find. They do have replays of some of them on JLTV and on cable. And that's where I would watch it, although we just switched our cable programming, and now I don't get that anymore, and I'm having withdrawal. I'm always having withdrawal from his show. So I kept one that I put on the DVR before we changed our programming, and I watch that whenever I can. I do miss that show. It was fabulous.
So you still watch it quite often, or whenever you have the chance to?
When I can, I watch that one, yeah. And, of course, there are things on YouTube, and lots of different things. There's one gentleman I belong on Facebook to a Soupy Sales fan club on Facebook, and there's one gentleman, Kevin Butler, who often will get things on Soupy from YouTube and put it on, and I watch those and always thank him for putting those on.
So what is your favorite thing nowadays to watch for a good laugh?
Anything with comedy. I don't like the comedy shows I don't watch Saturday Night Live, I don't watch Colbert, I don't watch any of those things. What I like are the old comedians. I will take out my tapes of Laurel and Hardy and watch them. I will take out the Little Rascals. I got the DVDs. I will watch those. I love to watch the old style. I'm not into the put-downs as comedy. I don't think put-downs are comedy at all. I think they're nasty. I think when people understand the foibles of human nature and what makes us laugh, and Soupy understood that, you have to understand what makes people laugh. A certain look, or what you say, or because everyone's going to trip on something. So when they see someone else do it, they laugh saying, oh, good, I'm not the only one. It's a relief. And then they laugh because they realize I'm not the only stupid idiot to fall on a crack in the sidewalk. So I think that's where comedy, the old comedy, really came into play because it was about human nature.
I could see just the little bit I watched of Soupy, that he was very good at those little nuances, the little looks.
Oh, the one that used to get me is that look of bewilderment on his face, and he'd like, and that used to just crack me up. Yeah, he was, he was a master at that. But I love all comedians. I was a Danny Kaye fan. I loved most comedy. I wasn't a big Three Stooges fan. I thought they were too violent at each other. But the other kind, the funny things, the physical comedy, I think there aren't enough physical comedians anymore. Carol Burnett was fantastic. Now, there was a physical comedian, Lucille Ball. All these people, they used their bodies and they used what was human nature. Everybody has the same understanding and they laugh at the same things. And I think they knew it. Red Skelton, Milton Berle, I mean, all the old comedies. I don't care for today's comedies in many ways because they're all verbal.
Very true. There are very few physical comedians. There's one I really like lately, but he's like one of very, very few. So.
Yeah, because the verbal comedy, not everybody talks like that, not everybody thinks like that, but everybody's tripped on a crack in the sidewalk. Yeah. And everybody's going to react to that because you relate. You can't always relate to today's comedians. And with Soupy, you could relate everything. I mean, the pie in the face, that was unusual. I mean, Charlie Chaplin has pies in the face. It was an old thing, but Soupy did it with a certain flair and made it became a state-of-the-art type of a thing. I mean, and everybody would, on his Friday night show, including Frank Sinatra, would come on his show to get a pie in the face. They wanted that experience. So, yeah.
Was he probably the most well-known for that then?
I think he became well-known for that. Everyone in the old comedy used it, but it wasn't their main thing. It was a part of what they did. But with Soupy, it became his trademark.
So, Myrna, how did you decide to self-publish this book?
I had to go through a lot of thinking. At first, I tried to contact the publishers of Soupy's books, thinking, well, they publish Soupy's books, maybe they'll do mine. I couldn't get somehow to contact them. Either they weren't available or whatever it was, so I thought, well, that's out. Then I started doing some research, and I found a book on Amazon by someone who said how to self-publish with Create Space, which is a subsidiary of Amazon. Okay. And I said, well, that looks interesting. I got his book. I read it. I went through the motions. And I decided if you get a regular publisher, unless you have a bestseller, it's only going to be out there for a year and then it's gone. If you self-publish, it's always available because it's printed on demand. So when people buy it, it's printed, it's sent out. So it's now available through Amazon, and both in the Kindle format and in paperback.
Okay.
So, and it will always be available.
So is there anything else about this book that you would like to add or share about even the process of writing it? Were you nervous?
Oh, no, I wasn't nervous at all. This was a wonderful project, and I enjoyed doing it even at 3 a.m. I mean, it just flowed from me. There are some things in the book that were beyond Soupy, that were related in a way. There was when I was given the chance to meet Stan Laurel.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yes, which was a wonderful, wonderful thing to be able to say, I did that twice. He was a wonderful guy. And also that there's information in the book that people didn't know about Soupy, such as his son ended up marrying the daughter of Tyrone Power. So that Soupy and Tyrone Power shared grandchildren, which was interesting because Soupy probably watched Tyrone Power in movies. I mean, I think that was when you read a book, you find out, gee, there's something I didn't expect to find in there. It's just little side things, this information. And, I think that's little extras.
With Soupy's love of his fans, did that wear off on you at all in a way that maybe you are willing to have people email you or contact you for a personal autograph?
Oh, well, that's fine. They can do that. In fact, I have a separate email account just for the book. Okay. It's Myrna_L_Davis@yahoo.com. And I actually had one fan who read the book, and she actually wrote to me, and we had emails back and forth for a while. Yeah,
Wow.
and she's out in Philadelphia. So that was kind of a nice thing. Actually, it was
Sure.
two people contacted me through the email address, and that was kind of nice.
Were they previous fans of Soupy's as well?
Oh, yes, of course. I mean, who else would read it but a fan? And it was very flattering, and I was glad that I was able to tell them things that they didn't know about.
How do you think it would be different for someone to try to become involved with the fan club today of someone that they really admire?
I couldn't tell you, because I think today it is no longer run by adoring fans. I think today they're all professionally run. It has lost its personal touch. I think a lot of things in our lives these days have lost a personal touch. This is why all our cars look the same. You can't tell a Ford from a Toyota from a Chevrolet. In the 1950s, you could say, oh, there's a 55 Ford, and you knew.
Yeah.
You knew what year, you knew it, because there was an individuality. Today, there is no individuality. And so you're getting to something that's really important there, is that we're all just part of a whole these days.
Maybe that is something you
Yeah.
should definitely write about in your book of life.
There you go. It's something I relish, the fact that I had this opportunity and did it when there was a different time. I mean, we went down to the radio station and we got to know the disc jockeys. You can't do that today. They're afraid of stalkers. We became very friendly with them. It's just amazing. The times have changed, and I think it's sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's so neat how you discussed that you guys could show up at Soupy's home. And, I mean, of course, you respected his privacy and didn't go in, but you could show up and...
Yes, and we also never, ever told any of the fans or anybody we knew where he lived. We did keep that secret. And even to this day, I didn't tell anybody about his New York address, although I think it's out there on the net. But I never divulged it to anybody. I just felt he deserved his privacy. He was nice to us, and I wanted to be nice back to him.
I'm sure he really appreciated it.
I wish I knew if wherever he is, that he knew that the book is written. I'm hoping that he does. I'd like him to be smiling down and saying, "Great job. I enjoyed that." You know, that would give me pleasure.
Yeah. Well, it's a really great tribute. I mean, I'm sure.
I hope so. That was my whole idea. It's not a lot, but it was just partially because before I'm old and crotchety and can't remember anything, I wanted to get all my thoughts down while I could. And so it was done for me. I never had a place. I mean, it was all over in my journal and in my head, but I never had a place where it was all written down until I did this. And I said, you know, I think I better take my mind and my journal and put them together and have everything in one place, all my memories. And I'm really glad I did that. I know there's a lot of fans still out there. They're probably mostly around my age, anywhere from 50 to 90. They're out there and they remember him. Mm-hmm. And I just want him to be remembered and not forgotten.
Other than, well, I guess it's because Soupy was just such a beautiful person. But what is really, why is it so important to you that his legacy is really remembered?
Because I think people tend to forget. I mean, who knows who were the entertainers in the 19th century? Nobody remembers, and there must have been some. Mm-hmm. Some of the golden age of Hollywood people remember because it's on film. But since his shows aren't shown that much, I just think he shouldn't be forgotten. I think he brought a new kind of comedy and enjoyment, and it spanned age groups from little toddlers all the way to older people. That's not easy to do. No. And I think he had a special flair for that. And he was a good guy. He was a nice person, and I just want him to have some kind of a legacy. It's a kind of, as I wrote in my book, this book was my own personal eulogy for him. Mm-hmm. I couldn't be there at his funeral, but I thought this is my eulogy to him and how I remember him.
Thanks again for joining us. This is Madison Glauner, and again, I'm here with Myrna Davis, author of Soupy Sales, A Personal Remembrance and Tribute. And don't forget to get your copy of the book on Amazon.com. And Myrna, thank you so much for all of your time today.
I've enjoyed it thoroughly. It's always a pleasure to talk about Soupy.
And I've enjoyed it too. Thank you so much.